Right. So a special good afternoon and welcome to the NEBOSH National General Certificate in Occupational Safety and Health. I am Mr. Samuel Shadrach, the head of the course provider for the Shadrach Safety Institute, and I'll also be your lecturer for this semester. Now, you might not have me for the whole semester. We have a couple of other lecturers at the institute. Um, but you'll have me for the most of the sessions anyway, right? And normally when I take a class, in fact, I have purposely decided to take this class, I wouldn't really give it to anybody else, right? If I take a class, I take a class. And if I assign a class to a lecturer, but then I assign a class to a lecturer, right? So that's how it goes. So it'll probably have me for about 80% of the classes anyway, right? There is some time you could write this on from now that I would not be in the country. And that's one thing because I could actually teach from Guyana. We actually have a branch in Guyana as well, but I would actually be teaching on the Saturday, another batch, right? So I wouldn't be free on those Saturdays. I think it's the 23rd, if you want, you could write it down one time. The 23rd and the 30th of June, you may not have any classes on those two Saturdays, right? Um, I could be wrong with one of those dates, right? But I'll let you know, right? I'll let you know how I still have some bit of flight bookings to do, but I know one of the Saturdays is actually off, right? So I may have to confirm that with you. I'll do that when we get closer to the month of June. I just thought about it and I realized that it may just be one of the Saturdays as opposed to two Saturdays, right? Because I am there for a week. I'm coming back this Sunday, right? But it's probably the 29th, if that is the Saturday there in June, right? I'll confirm that with you. Other than that, you'll have me for the bulk of the classes, right? So let's start at the top. And the top is really what have you all signed up to do, right? So you all have signed up to do. It's on the slide in the back here, right? The NEBOSH National General Certificate in Occupational Safety and Health, right? So I want to begin with though, and like I said, the marker is a bit unfriendly. You see what I mean here, right? I want to begin with what is NEBOSH, right? So most people say they want to do NEBOSH, right? So you want to do NEBOSH, you have seen it. I myself have actually sent you all some jobs when you all were inquiring about the course. Yeah, so the keypad here isn't the best. I've realized that with this machine I'm using, I have another one that the mouse pad actually is better to write with, but this one seems to be, this is the one I have set up for you all anyway, right? So what is NEBOSH? And like you see it in the vacancies, then you see vacancies accent for it, you see it, those of us elsewhere. It's all over the Caribbean, South America, it's all over the UK, Europe and stuff. So what is NEBOSH, right? What is it? What is it? So I'll have to call it out for you, right? So NEBOSH, I'll have to call it a letter. So it's actually not what you think. In fact, no one could actually do NEBOSH, right? NEBOSH is actually not one thing, but it's many things, right? So we can start at the meaning of NEBOSH. So NEBOSH stands for the National, you could write that down. Let's say write it. The National Examination Board. Tell me if I'm going too fast. The National Examination Board in Occupational Safety and Health. The National Examination Board in Occupational Safety and Health. So this is a question for me to ask you next week, right? What is NEBOSH, right? And so they are located in Leicestershire, UK. Now, Leicestershire, if you've never heard about that word, but those of us who may be football fans, you must have heard about Manchester. If you heard about Manchester, right? Well, actually, the proper thing is actually Manchestershire. Like everything in the UK gets Shire or Shirefied, right? So if you're a football fan, Leicester is actually a good football team. Leicester actually won. I remember when they did was a huge celebration in Leicester. If you have never been there, Leicester is like I was going to say Trinidad, but Trinidad is too violent. But okay, like in terms of their population, Leicester is very cosmopolitan then, right? Much so like London, much so like New York, right? Leicester is very much, like when they won that football, there was actually carnival. There's actually a Trinidad style carnival in the streets of Leicester, right? But it's a pretty decent place, and NEBOSH is located there. And like anybody have been to the UK here? Anybody? We normally have people that have family members across there. Anybody have been to the UK? Yes, no. You can say no if it's no. Anyone?
No.
No. Have you ever heard about? I mean, we must have heard about
No, sir.
London. No. Okay. That would have been a yes or a no. I'm not quite sure.
That's a no, sir.
Oh, that's a no. Okay. Well, the thing about your NEBOSH qualification, I'll come to that in a bit, is that it means you could work there as well. You could work in Trinidad because the accent right here. You could work in Guyana. Well, the one Guyana student, I'm not too sure if she joined in, right? But remember I told you we have a branch across in Guyana for the last 4 years anyway. And I could show you that the vacancies in Guyana is also asking for NEBOSH. In fact, I didn't even know that when I was there, right? I happened to pull it up by mistake a day. I was in front of a crowd. I was doing an oil and gas training, and somebody asked me, and I said, well, and it was on a projector. So when I pull it up, I was actually shocked because I didn't even know NEBOSH that Guyana was even in the know then to ask a NEBOSH. But the rest of the world does. And of course, remember, we are on an island. As much as the crime rate seemed to suggest that we are part of New York City, but we are on an island, and really this like the most southern island in the Caribbean. So we are far down the Caribbean island chain. In fact, the last of the Caribbean island chain, the last one in the island chain. And yet still here on this tiny island that seems to be confusing the crime rate with that of New York City, that they ask a NEBOSH here, and they've always been asking for NEBOSH here for the last generation. NEBOSH has been asked for here on this island, right? Same as Grenada and Barbados and Jamaica, etc. But that's how it is. So what is NEBOSH? The National Examination Board in Occupational Safety and Health. They are located in the United Kingdom. And what some of the things I wanted to take down is that your paper is going there. Your certificate is coming from there, right? So this is why we would have said, and the email, if you all would have read it, NEBOSH is globally recognized. This is not COSTAT. This is not Cipriani. This is not UTT, right? Where they would print something in the office and give you. This is not that. This is the real NEBOSH, right? This is the real globally recognized. So once you get it for life. You don't have to go back and do it again, ever. Getting a NEBOSH is like getting a CXC certificate. Once you get it for life, right? So the next thing I want to tell you, if you're okay with that, so are you all okay with that? That is the strength of your qualification. The strength of it is that it is globally recognized. It's not from UTT. It's not from COSTAT, right? It's not from UE even. UE is sort of recognized, but there are some countries that don't recognize a UE degree or a UE certificate, like Australia. Certain parts of Europe does not recognize a UE qualification. In fact, there are places in Guyana that doesn't recognize a UE qualification. Anybody could tell me why you think that is the case? Why you think Guyana is not accepting a UE qualification? Anybody have any suggestions for that? Well, one of the reasons is that they have their own university. Like how we have UTT, Guyana have a university too. It's called the University of Guyana. Can I ask you a question? Would you accept a qualification from the University of Guyana?
I
Anybody?
mean, if you're in Guyana, probably.
But if you're in
But of
Trinidad and
course,
somebody come with a certificate from the University of Guyana, would you accept it? Probably not.
Probably not.
probably not here. Yeah.
Yeah, probably not. But So what I'm trying to let you all see here is that there's a bit of a disparity with local universities then, right? But like, what is some of your background? Anybody here know about the world of accounting? Anybody here know about accounting? Anybody know about accounting here?
Yes, sir.
Yes. What's the main entity in the world of accounting? And I'm not talking UTT and Costa. What's the main? There's like an entity like NEBOSH, and it's from England too. Anybody knows that one? What's the main entity for account? It's also the letter A.
ACCA.
ACCA, right? So what I'm trying to show you here, right? I hope you're writing it down. Right? I'll tell you what I'm trying to show you on it. I wouldn't just leave it to, right? So ACCA is like the top brand in the world of accounting. So you could have, you know, we doing an accounting course, fine. Costa doing an accounting course, fine. But it's not the main brand. It's not the top brand, right? It's not the main course. If you want to become a serious accountant, then you do ACCA. So you all following? So UE have health and safety certificates. Everybody have health and safety certificates, right? Cipriani have one, Costa have one, UTT probably have. I'm not too sure if UTT have, right? Everybody have a safety certificate, but it's not NEBOSH. This is the NEBOSH Center here for the Caribbean, right? So I'll introduce who we are, but I'll also introduce what we offer as well, right? So I was going to tell you here that NEBOSH goes up to a master's degree, right? If you could just do this seminar, my marker, I'll tell you, it's not really the marker, I think it's the mouse pad, right? It kind of running a bit, right? So NEBOSH goes from the certificate level, if you can write this for me, like cert, NEBOSH goes from the certificate level straight up to a master's degree, right? So that's what we do. I'll probably introduce here the NEBOSH diploma. The NEBOSH diploma is a BSc degree with honors, if you want to write that down underneath that a bit. And then we go up to the master's degree as well, the MSc. Currently, I have nobody on the MSc. And that's not a bad thing, because you don't need an MSc to become a safety. You look at all the vacancies for yourself, you'll see, in fact, I'll show you some just now, right? You'll see NEBOSH certificate level 3, right? And that is what you all have signed up to do. Remember, when you get it for life. And remember, when you get it, you could work anywhere in the world. And I can tell you stories, because some of you all know these stories. I have students all over Trinidad, all over Guyana, anywhere I go, right? I come across my students in the airports, people calling me. I was in a store last week. 2 people who were in the store were talking to each other, and 2 of them knew me, but I couldn't remember them. That was probably more than 10 years ago, right? The names, I asked them the names sound similar, but people's faces does change, right? Cut their hair, who got skinnier, who got, more chubby. But I remember their names, right? So the NEBOSH certificate is what is required to become a HSE officer or a HSE advisor. If you want to get that down here, that's a level 3. So once you finish this, you could apply for work anywhere you see safety advisor, safety officer, anywhere in the world. I'll try to show you this just now, right? If you like it and you want to do a degree in it, for those of us who don't have a degree, we have the NEBOSH diploma, right? This is DIP, right? NEBOSH diploma is a level 6 qualification, and a level 6 qualification is a bachelor's degree with honors. Your NEBOSH certificate is a level 3. If you could probably make that 3 there for me, not too sure what happened to it, right? It's a level 3. The master's is a level, this is supposed to be a 6, by the way. It didn't look like a 6, it looks like a 10. Level 6. And the master's is a level 7. But I have no one on it. And most places do have anybody on the master's anyway too, right? The reason for that was GATE. Those of us in the Trinidad, they might understand that, right? GATE came off of MSc programs totally, right? So before, the last 9 years then, we had a lot of persons, a lot of people doing master's degree and stuff, but GATE is off these foreign courses. It's not just me, just keep that in mind. Is anybody that offers foreign qualifications, ACCA, Omardines, SBCS, once it's a foreign course, right? GATE is off the master's program. You can still probably get for the BSc level a bit if you're making less than $10,000 a month. but GATE is of the MSc programs, right? I have nobody on it, and I don't mind because it wouldn't really survive. I had one student 2019, right? And he was the last one anyway, right? But anyway, what I wanted to show you here is that there are many certificates. And as I was telling you, NEBOSH is not just one. Now, I wouldn't draw many. Could I just put two? Because if I put many, it would become a very confusing diagram, right? So I'll just put probably two of our top courses again. We have the NEBOSH. All of them is NEBOSH, right? Process Safety Management. That's PSM for short. That's supposed to be a P. You see the discontinuity in it, right? So now PSM, NEBOSH Process Safety Management. This is level 4. So maybe when you all are finished with the level 3, you can move on to that. And then there are also environmental qualifications as well, right? So NEBOSH, the point of doing this is to tell you that NEBOSH is not one qualification, right? There are many qualification. NEBOSH is a brand then. It's like when you say UE, there are many UE qualifications. When you say custard, there are many custard qualifications. So if somebody said they're doing custard, well, they'll say, well, what you're doing in custard, right? So when you say you're doing NEBOSH, it's like what you're doing in NEBOSH, and what you'll have signed up to do is the main NEBOSH qualification. I say main again because there are many spin-offs. I only put two. If I go, I could say some more if you have a better diagram. You could actually add 2 or 3 more if you want to add it for yourself, but I wouldn't add it. You could just put 3 more lines and you could add 3 more for now, right? So there's a NEBOSH risk assessment course by itself. You can just put NEBOSH RA. That has a full name. Actually, risk assessment is not the name of it, right? The full name is Managing Risk and Risk Assessment at Work. But you can just put RA if it's a diagram like this, right? And then there's a NEBOSH accident investigation course. That's just 2. So you have 4 in all. But understand there are many certificates. But to become a safety, you need to have the level 3. Who said so? Not me. Don't listen to me. The vacancies say so. I'll show you some in a bit, right? I know we sent some to you all. We had sent some to you all before, right? Robert seems to be getting some trouble. Let me try to admit him. And in doing that, I'll probably try to pull up a vacancy, right? So I would have probably emailed some of you all, vacancies when you all first inquired about the course, right? I can run a search live, right? But let me finish with the orientation. If I don't get to do all, you all can do it. I can tell you what to do. I will try one live, right? But let me try to pull one. This is from one of my classes I had this morning. I know they normally post it. Let me see what they have, right? I've seen a lot of, okay, so this is one here, Caribbean Resource Solution. This is the first one. I actually don't know what it have in it, right? And as you go down, hopefully we go down together. The first thing you see is NEBOSH, right? But I suppose as this is a safety officer, you see, they didn't say which one. Oh, actually they said diploma too. They said NEBOSH, OSHA certificate, and under there you see diploma, right? Now, in this Caribbean region, this is the only center I told you all, right? No one else does the NEBOSH diploma. No one else does this version of the certificate. I don't know if you all know that, right? There are 2 other entities in Trinidad that's offering a spin-off qualification, something from the ILO, but that's not accredited in England, right? So what we do, you hear me say some words, and if you want to write it down, I said you all are doing the real NEBOSH. You're not doing the spin-off, right? You are doing the course. In other words, you're doing the same thing that Guyana doing. Give me a minute to admit somebody again. You are doing the same thing that the people in England doing, right? You are doing the same thing the people in Europe doing. You're doing the same thing that people in Guyana or it's not Guyana, Grenada doing, right? So you all have signed up for the main course, and I like that because you could always come and do the spin-off. You could always come and do the ILO, or you could always come back and do the process. The reason why you're doing the cert is because of the vacancies. That's what I'm trying to show you, right? If the vacancies was asking for the spin-off, I would say, let's do the spin-off. But if the vacancy say NEBOSH level 3, then that's what you have to do. You understand, folks? So let the vacancies guide you. Now, these are local vacancies. I can send them to you in a bit. I just have to focus on one thing at a time, right? I'll forward this one to the group in a bit, right? And before this session is finished, I hope to run a search in England too. And next week we could run one in Guyana too, right? So you see for yourself. Anyway, this one, anybody know this company? This one is Lane. Anybody know this company? They're in San Fernando, Lane. Lane or Lane as
Yes,
they
sir.
call them. Yeah,
Yes,
okay, so
sir.
let's go. What happened there? Just now, hold on. Let's go down and see who they're asking for. Right? Sorry. Yeah, so let's go down and see who they're asking for. So this is what they're asking for. A HSE officer. So I expect to see NEBOSH level 3. I don't expect to see anything else, right? Now, again, if folks, we see COSTAT here, I will tell you, but let's all leave the class and let's go and do COSTAT, right? But as you go down, I don't know if you can see it there, must have, I think you should be able to see there, must have the, sorry, the thing time out, right? You
Yes,
must
sir,
have,
I saw it.
it's all right, yeah, must have NEBOSH level 3, right? No, they didn't say you must have the process. If they say process safety, fine. But nothing is wrong with the spin-offs because it's good to have environmental, it's good to have RA, it's good to have them. But if you're doing this, I would want to imagine you want to get a work, you want to get a job, and let's get a job first, and then you could come back and do something else. You could come back and get the spin-off, right? All right, so that's what we offer, right? We are, like I said, the main NEBOSH center in the Caribbean, and we go straight up to the master's degree. I didn't, by the way, it have other diplomas too, you know, but we have the main one. When they say NEBOSH diploma, this is the main one. There are other diplomas, there are other diplomas as well. But if you're looking for a work, you're looking for a career, then you want to stick along the backbone here. When you finish the cert, I'd advise you maybe to come and do PSM. And if you have the funds, then you come up and you do the NEBOSH level 6 diploma, right? That's about 30,000 TT dollars, but it's over 2 years, right? So the payment plan isn't that bad at the moment. It was actually more before the pandemic. We have dropped the price by more than 20,000 TT dollars, and that class is filled. I just had that class. That class was before you. I have about 30 students in that class, right? Okay, folks, let's take this off. Tell me if you have any questions on what we're looking at here. We have covered what is NEBOSH, where is NEBOSH, and I bet we have covered that NEBOSH is the brand name for health and safety, right? We have also covered that NEBOSH is not one course, but many courses. However, you should do the one that the vacancy is asking for. Otherwise, what are you doing? I mean, like, what you're doing if you're not doing the one that is in demand, right? Feel free to come back and do the rest, but do the main one first. Get your foot in the door, and you could often do the ones that follow after that, right? Ask me if you have any questions on what I mentioned here. I want to move on with something else.
No questions, sir.
No questions. Thanks for the feedback. I'm going to take it off, right? Okay. So next week, the first question I ask you is what is NEBOSH and what courses is offered by NEBOSH, right? Okay. The next thing here, I'm coming back here now. So let me just go with this slide a bit for a bit of this slide, right? I would stop it anyway too because I want to tell you some stuff in it, right? So I'm just going to go through this slide a bit. Emergency procedures is what you have at your home at the moment. Should there be any disasters, emergencies? Of course, if it is things like a robbery, you know, make sure to secure yourself inside your home, right? Of course, if it is a natural disaster, well, then you try to make your way out into an open space, right? The welfare facilities for this course is the ones that you have home. The rules of the school, I have, of course, I have to mention it, is that you must have your cameras on. I have noticed some of you all have it off. And I'm kind of in a good mood today because today is orientation, right? Normally now, you can turn it off, especially, you know, this time is around lunchtime. You know, you can turn it off and on, but it shouldn't be off for the whole class, right? So I'll come back and tell you why in a bit. It shouldn't be off for the whole class, right? I'll tell you why, and you'll be surprised to know the reason why. Right, some useful contact information. But my number is here. Everybody should have this. And then we have a couple of coordinators. We have Janet and Shanice. I think you all have been liaising more with Shanice. And as I said, we have other lecturers. You see their names here. Those names wouldn't mean anything to you because you don't know them anyway, right? But we have Mr. Tika. We have Mr. Sulakan, if anybody knows them. Probably not, because you all have never done anything else with us, right? So we mentioned NEBOSH is the National Examination Board in Occupational Safety and Health. They have been around since 1979, and they are the top brand in health and safety in the world, right? So this is the slide I wanted to get to, right? If you want, I'm going to time myself for this. I'm just going to spend some time on, I'll come back to this slide, right? On like, why is NEBOSH the top brand, right? And the answer for that is they are just the top brand. You see, the world we live in is a world of brands. That's just how it is. We can't change it, right? The clothes you wear, the shoes on your foot, the appliances you buy. What's the brand of your television at home? Anybody?
Samsung.
Toshiba.
Samsung? Well,
Yeah,
Toshiba, but
Samsung.
it's a brand, right? Which one is reputed to be the best brand out of
Samsung.
those two? Samsung, right?
Samsung,
Back when I was
Samsung.
growing up, yeah, back when I was growing up, they would say Sharp. Everybody wants a Sharp TV. You know, Sharp. You don't know what that is. A Sharp TV. This generation don't know what that is. What's the top brand in jeans? The jeans that you have on. What's a top brand in jeans?
Levi's, I guess.
Levi. Yeah. So everything, the world we live in is a world of brands, right? And the brand owners would have worked on that, right? If you say shoes, a Nike or a Jordan, the owners of those entities would have worked on that. I am not any one of them, right? When you say, okay, you're going for a drink, you're going, I mean, a decent drink, right? I say drink here. But of course, drink also have brands. You do have Heineken and you have, top brands then, right? So you have local brands, Carib and Banks and stuff in Guyana and in Barbados. But, when you say Johnny Walker, right? That's a brand, right? So when you say you're drinking something good, right? So that's a brand, right? But you didn't create the brand. The people in Trinidad, the dealer who's selling Johnny Walker didn't create the brand, right? When you say you head into like a decent drink now, right? I mean, what is a decent drink, right? A non-alcoholic drink. You say you're going to get a refresher. So what you're going for? What you're going for if you say you're going for a refresher? You want a good refresher. What you're going for? A Starbucks or a Rituals? Which one are you going for?
Rituals.
You're shocked, but yeah. The rest of us, what you going for? You say you're going for a good refresher. Which one are you going for? Starbucks or Rituals?
Definitely Starbucks.
Starbucks, right? Starbucks exactly tastes better than Rituals. I'm telling you, right? Madeline. It's been proven. It's been proven. It's been proven by many YouTubers I've seen, right? But anyway, both of them are brands, Rituals and Starbucks. Okay, but if you were traveling then, right? You were traveling, let's say you left Trinidad and you're traveling, right? Would you find a Rituals in another airport? Would you find a Starbucks in another airport?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so which is the top
Mhm.
brand? So the owners worked on the brand, and that's what you all have come to do, right? So I wanted to feel that's why Lane in Trinidad and a Caribbean island could be asking for NEBOSH, right? This is not England. This is a Caribbean island. How come they're asking for NEBOSH here? How come Guyana asking for NEBOSH, right? So that's what NEBOSH is, right? It's a top brand. I don't know if you want to write that down because there's a reason for telling you that. I don't want you to forget, you see. I don't want you to forget what you're doing. Right? And there's a certain prestige, there's a certain pride. I don't know if I could show you something, but I have to look for it. Right? I don't know if I have it on my desk. Coordinators is always move it, and I move it sometimes too, right? But NEBOSH, they have graduation in England. I'm looking for the graduation brochure, right? Or the graduation book. I don't have it on me here. Right? If I get up and a bit, I'll find it and I'll share, right? And so it's the top brand, right? And we then work on it we just continued it, right? And we have been continuing this for the last decade, more than 10 years now, right? So that's what NEBOSH is. Anyway, having said that, and it's a good certificate to have for life. You could work in Canada, you get fast track citizenship, fast track work in Canada. Folks, here's something, right? I have a student. So instead of telling you an old story, I'll tell you a real story, right? I have a student. Let me try to find him as I talk to you. If I don't find him, I don't find him, not because I'm doing two things at the same time, right? He came here last year, right? He wasn't working at the time, right? He did his NEBOSH and he messaged me from the UK, right? He said he got on to a company that was providing local citizens here to work in England, but it's a combination of Guyanese and Trinidadians, right? So he's with them. When he called me, I'll show you his picture just now. I'll show you some stuff about him, right? He said he was getting 100 and something thousand TT for the month. And it's not a joke because you see, you could actually you could just go on Google and put UK HSE jobs and you'll see what I'm talking about is real. So this is him. This is him. I shouldn't show you him. Trinidad is violent, but he's not in Trinidad. So that's Lorenzo. And I put Lorenzo UK, but Lorenzo is not from the UK. But he's in the UK now, right? I'm trying to show you what I did with him. So he messaged me this one sometime this year. I said, "What's up?" And I sent him a British flag, right? And so that's just a local person. That's just one current student, right? Remember, we have been here for more than a decade. Some of you, I know the guy from Proman. I know another student had recommended you here, right? And so the story goes then that if you're in safety today, most safety persons would have done NEBOSH and most of them would have done it right here today, right? For that reason, I say we do assist people with job placements. It's not a miracle. What we do is that having been here for so long, a lot of the safeties in companies today, like Desalcott, Atlantic, Yara, wherever you all could call, I know somebody inside here. And the person inside here was once right here. There was once a student here, right? So I don't do anything out of the way. I could show it in my phone now. If somebody tell me when you finish your cert, look, I'm looking for work, I would just call up Kevin. I'm just going to call her name Kevin. I say, Kevin, how you going? Kevin says, okay. I said, do you all have any vacancies? And do you know any companies hiring? And that's how the link is made, right? It's because that in all of these companies today, if NEBOSH is the standard and we are the longest provider in the region, then they would have come from here, right? So many students would get employment once you all have the certificate in your hand, right? Anyway, let's talk about the downside. So the downside, which is not really a downside, but I'm just trying to tell you something. I mean, it's not on the up and up then, right? It's not a downside, but it's not on the up and up. So the downside is that you have an exam to write on your own. If all those things we said was true and is true, then you have to earn it. Again, the downside to saying this is not COSTAT or this is not UE is that we are not printing anything here. No certificates come from here. So as much as I know your name, if I have known your name, right, already, Robert, this is 20-something students, right, Robert, Michelle, as much as I know your name, I cannot help you. On the day of the exam is you and you alone, right? And there is a project we could help you with a project to a certain extent. And then the paper and the project is sent to the UK. Once you do what you have to do, you would pass. Once you do your own thing, the chances are that you would not pass. So this have to be said on the very first day, right? This is not where, by the way, I don't know if you all know, if you read the email, you don't read the email I sent for you all? I mean, if you did, anyway. Anyway, I wouldn't bother go through all of that. What I was trying to say though is that this is not anywhere local then, right? So at the end of, as much as we are in Trinidad here, the strength of your qualification is that it's coming from the UK, right? And your paper is going back to the UK. So let's take a look at this slide. You have two things to do to pass the assessment. You have what is called NG1, the Management of Safety and Health. And this is an open book exam that is conducted over 24 hours. Look at right here if you want to take it down from here, right? How many questions? About 8, 9 for the most. And you have 24 hours to do those questions. So if you all do what I tell you to do, you will never take so long. How I know that is because every class of people that do what I tell them to do, right? There's a technique to passing the exam, and there is your own way. When you start to do your own thing, you probably may be waking whole night. But there's a technique, and in fact, there's many techniques, right? I'll try to show you them. I'll try to show you maybe one today, right? It's a very simple technique, right? But if you start late, if you start 5 o'clock in the evening, you'll be waking whole night. Some people do that. If you start 6 o'clock in the morning, the day for the exam, you'll finish by 4 o'clock in the evening, right? So there are many techniques, right? They don't really set challenging questions. I don't think so. This is something from the NEBOSH website that I took off here, but I don't think so. I think the questions are very simple. It's too easy, in fact. And that's what people think. People think it's too hard, but I think it's too easy, right? So 8 to 10 questions. The questions are based on a scenario. I want to show you one just now, right? I think I have one saved, right? The scenario is not too long, so if you want to write that down, the scenario is just 2 pages long. I'm going to put something here for you all, so I'll just put some main points here. So the open book exam is over 24 hours. It is normally a Wednesday. NG1 is examined with an open book exam, right? We call it OBE for short, open book exam. And you have 24 hours from 6 a.m. of one day to 6 a.m. the following day, right? If you do what I tell you to do, I had a student that finishes in 6 hours time, and that's because he did what I tell him to do. Techniques like do the one you can do first. Do the easy one first now. Do the one you can do first. If you find 4 you can do first, do that. You probably passed with that already, right? But if you start with the hard one or what may be perceived, do the one that you can do. If you do the one you can do, and you knock off 4 or 5 questions out of 6 or 7 questions, that's how some people finish fast, right? But if you delay 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, you now sit down with the paper, then every time you're getting up, you're eating something, you're walking, you're on your phone. That is the next disaster, the phone, right? Whole day you're texting, you will never finish, right? Put away the phone for the day of the exam. By the way, the exam is not supervised. So could you write some more if you want? As I call them, the open book exam is over 24 hours. It's not supervised, but I know people just be on their phone whole day. You're watching video, you're messaging the girlfriend messaging the boyfriend, whole day, whole night, 2 in the night. Then when you want, you look at a question, right? If you forget all of that and sit down and do the paper, you'll finish it probably in 6 hours time. This is from a student I know who actually did it like that, right? But some people know they have 24 hours, they lime about, they head out to the mall. One student told me she went and sleep. I'm telling you what, she said she went and sleep. I said, what time did you start? Because you say you wake whole night. She said, well, you know, I took a day off from work and she went and sleep. And then when she get up, she take her next sleep after that sleep. And then about 6 o'clock in the evening, she start, right? But you decide how much you want to suffer because there is no mercy marks. Somebody saying they wake whole night does nothing to NEBOSH. Remember, we're not marking it. And even if I feel sorry for you for some strange reason, but if you started late in the evening, fine, but once you start early, the technique I will teach you, you'll be able to finish by 4 o'clock. And this is with a lunch, and this is probably with some interruptions. If we get into the course by 4 o'clock, most of you would actually be finished on the day of the exam. Of course, if you do your own thing, then you're on your own. And could you do your own thing? Yes. Could you submit 3 o'clock in the morning? Yes. Could you submit 5 a.m. the following morning? Yes. But you don't have to. If you do the thing the way it's supposed to be done, by 4 o'clock you finish, right? But yes, you have 24 hours at the moment. You can use all of that time, right? Folks, I see you putting some stuff in the chat, but because I'm teaching and talking, I could only do one thing at a time. If there's anything you want me to address, could you do? Could you unmute the mic and probably just come in with it a bit? I want to continue here a bit, right? So could you use the internet? Could you use phone a friend? Phone a friend? Yes, you could do all of that. The exam is not supervised. So how it is people feel it, I'll tell you in a bit. Could you use Google? Does Google have the answers? Yes. Yes. But there's a technique, right? I'll tell you some of the mistakes people make in a bit, right? So the pass mark should be on this slide. If not, it's on the other slide. Let me tell you the pass mark. Anybody want to guess the pass mark?
Says 45%.
Pass mark is 45. It's actually 45 marks. So anybody here will say, but that's a low pass mark. But if you don't do what I tell you to do, you'll probably not meet that 45, right? So 45 marks, could you write marks next day? 45 marks is the pass mark. People score high marks, but then some people don't. There are two main reasons why people don't, right? But all of this is as we get started now. I can't tell you all today. I could share two with you, but you'll understand it when it's your turn to do an assignment, right? Today is just words. 45 is the pass mark, right? Let me just share on two things that people do wrong. And we probably look at a student's paper, so you could probably have a good idea of it, right? I wouldn't be able to write all of it, but I advise you all, as this is like a lecture, please write more than what I am writing on this slide, right? So listen to this, right? One of the things NEBOSH does is that there is no mass amount of marks for a single point. You actually get 1 mark for 1 point, right? So I refer to this as the subway principle. But those of us in Trinidad may understand this, right? Subway, some years ago, they had a special. Anybody remember that special? $20. Anybody remember the 20 special? They used to call it 20 for what? 20 for 20. And I think that's what NEBOSH marking scheme is, right? So NEBOSH marking scheme is if something is 10 marks, you have to give them 10 points. 5 marks, 5 points, right? If you write a whole page, let's imagine this to be a page, right? I should have drawn it better. I started drawing lines in it. If this is a whole page, right? And this whole page have 1 point in it, right? You'll just get 1 mark. So how do you avoid that? How do you avoid that? The answer is technique, right? Folks, just know, my computer seems like it wants to die. Give me a minute, huh? The funny thing is that it is plugged in. Then the battery may not be charging, but this is a fairly new computer. This is actually a new brand computer. No, something is wrong. Something is wrong. Let me just check again and see. So you all want to laugh, right? You want to laugh? Yeah. I didn't plug it on. I probably didn't know what happened. I probably hit it. I had some other classes. The code is active by my foot, yeah. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so how do you avoid this, right? Listen to how you avoid it. Could I take this one off? Could I take off this thing that I drew there? So how do you have, yeah, go ahead. Yes?
Like for me, right? When I did the exam, I sat down exactly when the portal opened.
Yeah,
And I didn't leave, right? I literally just took a break to like eat, right?
yeah,
And I mean, and I still kind of fail, but I fail by 2 points
yeah.
under the 45.
Yeah, and that's because you see there are other techniques you see, so I
Yeah.
mean there are other deeper techniques. Like one of the technique is Well, misinterpretation. If you misinterpret what they were asking, right?
Okay.
So I mean, those of us who are new, you could write down as much as you could write down, right? So one of them is to give them 10 for 10. How much marks you see is how much points you have to write. So 10 for 10, 15 for 15, 20 for 20, 5 for 5, 7 for 7, right? Another technique is, remember, we are not there on the day of the exam. So if you misinterpret something, then the 10 points you write, it may have been wrong. You understand that? Because we are not there on the day of the exam. You're home doing the exam for yourself. So if the question says X and you put Y, that's another reason why that you could finish a full paper. But when they look at it, what you wrote then wasn't what they were looking for. In other words, then, for those who know a little bit of the syllabus, if they ask something about what the managers did wrong, or I mean, it's the simplest question I can think of now, but you didn't write on that. You like you wrote about the managers, but they didn't address what the managers did wrong. You know, so like Michelle, anyway, I wouldn't say that, right? But we could look at somebody's paper, and when you all get to know the technique, you can actually see for yourself that that mark was not to be given because what they wrote there was not the answer to the question then, right? So this is why I said this is the downside. The downside is that you have to earn the qualification, but Google is a big help. You can actually Google a lot of answers, and there are some other techniques as well, right? So just showing the very first technique. So the very first technique for like an introductory class like this one is that what you do, watch my hair bed, you put your answers in different points then. So if something is worth 10 points, well then you have to write it like in a numbered form then, like a numbered answer then. So like there's an answer for number 1. And how long should you go? It's about 3 to 4 lines. So 3 to 4 lines is sufficient for one answer. And you do that again. And you keep going, but every one of this must be different, right? So like another thing that some students do is that they repeat the same point, but you don't know that you're repeating the same point, right? Like if they say what the managers did wrong, and then they wrote here the managers, what they did wrong was that they didn't do an inspection. And later on here you come back and you wrote about the managers didn't inspect, right? Now, if there are 2 points in inspection, you just get 1 correct. If this other point was inspection again, or it suggested the same thing, if it said like managers doing a walk around, now a walk around is an inspection. Folks, you understand that? So sometimes students write the same thing in a different way, expecting to get it correct. But once the examiner see it, they normally put with it AS, which means already stated or already assigned. If they put AA meant that they give the mark for that already. They give the mark for the managers inspecting already. So out of a possible 10, sometimes you end up with about 5 out of the 10. You all understand it? Even if you have 10 answers. So this is what we mean by you have to earn the qualification, right? It's not too hard, but you have to catch the technique, right? And this is what I'm trying to do with you here. You catch the technique. Once you catch the technique, you have to play back this video. You know, this is one for the group chat. I'm telling you all, right? Next week is work. Next week we're not teaching technique enough. Today is orientation, so we can talk about this. Next week when you start 1 o'clock, we start teaching one time, right? At the end of the topic, we would come and do a past paper, right? But next week, I'm not doing this next week, and the next week when we start, we cover in content, right? But I'm telling you, when you start to express your answers, don't forget what I'm showing you here. I'm telling you, I'm recording it and like I'm writing it on the screen. So you should write it too. All right, I'm going
So
to
can
pause
I
it.
add something too?
Sure, yeah.
Just as the other person, I failed, but I failed by 4 points. And I think, I know my challenge was I didn't have a proper working device. It was giving a lot of trouble. And I am a very slow person on typing. So if person's very weak in it, I would suggest they get help to type it, or
Yeah.
they start to practice from now, because I wasn't able to type out everything, and I got 41. So maybe if
Yeah.
I did type it out, I would have passed.
Yeah, so all of that is technique. That's not a bad idea. Look, I just had a student, Shannon. Shannon called me this morning and wake me up. I don't know what this man called me for, right? But he passed his exam. I don't even know what time this man called me, but I know it was dark. And I didn't want to get up early because I know 3 a.m. Who the hell has called people 3 a.m. in the morning, right? I've seen that.
People who are excited about passing exams.
This man crazy boy. Anyway, yeah, so Shannon is one of those persons, he's very slow in typing, but what he got his girlfriend to help him to type now. So he would write it out on paper and he would just give it to her and she will type it, right? So you have to kind of be familiar with your technique as well. If you know, I do not advise writing in paper, that's wasting time. You know, like one of the techniques to me is if you could type, start one time. When you get a paper, right? They give you a template to type on. This one I draw here, they have like a Word document for you to type on. We actually call it a template. Start typing one time, right? Type one time. Unless if you have somebody to type for you. I think that's what Madeline is saying, right? But last week too, I had a student. So by the way, folks, I mean, just to give a good note here, I had 94% pass rate. I had one student in one of my last classes that was referred. So these people here seen they're from different classes, huh? And one of those students that was referred, for her too, she left out questions, right? And you see, with every answer being important, and you don't know, she left out about 3 questions. I was like, what? Right? It's like 3 questions was left out, right? So with something like that, try not to leave out anything, right? Try to do all the questions, right? Fight for every mark. Having said what NEBOSH is, it is a fight. A British person is marking your paper. Not to sound the way I wanted to sound, but like a Caucasian person. Then, of course, England is, like I said, Leicester is very much multicultural. So that's not really true. Anybody know who is the Prime Minister from England today? Who is the Prime Minister of England?
Rishi Sunak.
Right, Rishi Sunak. That's actually, you know, an East Indian person then, right? So when I say a British person marking a paper, don't all picture like a white person, right? But it's a British person. Rishi Sunak is actually British by birth anyway. So were all of our grandparents. You all know that? All our grandparents were British citizens, every single one of them, right? It's only when we became a republic, we gave up the British citizenship for Trinidad and Tobago citizenship. Was that a gain or a loss? I'm not quite sure, right? Anyway, folks, let me come back here. Just give me 1 minute. I have somebody by the door. Think about if you have any questions for me with this. Here, what I can do. I could leave you with, someone is at my door, right? I'm going to leave you looking at a student's paper. Just for 1 minute. You could actually time me. This is a student in Guyana. She got the highest in the region, Janelle Lewis. Let's have a look at one of her answers. And it's not rocket science. This is not trigonometry you're looking at here, right? This is just somebody answering a question. And 2 to 3 lines is sufficient, right? Take a look at it. The question here was on, I could probably set it on a simple question for you all. Emergency procedures, right? This had to be 5 marks because you have 5 answers, right? How hard is that, especially when you have Google, especially when you have the internet to use, right? Just give me 1 minute. All right, I'm back, right? So, you know, what like here, right? You know, like it's not a very long answer. One positive point about the fire safety arrangement at the car showroom is the presence of a fire extinguisher, which can be used to control small fires if they were to occur. The answers are not very long or excessive. If a pen right there, right? Here, you could have one of mine. Sorry about that, right? So another positive point about the fire safety arrangement at the car showroom is the presence of fire call points. This is because it allows persons to manually raise an alarm to everyone in close proximity in the event of a fire. So really not rocket science, folks. So if you wonder where is this person referring to, I mentioned they give you like a 2-page case study, not 10 pages, 2 pages, right? 2 pages is not much, right? And I want to leave you here. I want to leave this part here, right? Tomorrow's here, right? Tomorrow in class, yeah. Right. So I want to leave this part here, but I wanted to take down what I'm going to tell you, right? Because it's one of the keys to passing this course, right? So the case study and passing a NEBOSH exam is like a comprehension. You remember doing comprehension in school? Like I mean, we must have done CXC English, and even so, you must have done, comprehension in primary school. So what you're looking at here, these points that are positive is actually coming from the case study, right? So what does that mean? I want to tell you what that means. And of course, I'll show you, but we have to cover some content. Like for you, this class have to cover some content before we look at a past paper now, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is this, right? I hope you wrote the word comprehension down, right? What I'm trying to tell you is that like a comprehension, where some of the answers are in the comprehension, there are some questions where the answers in the case study. In other words, you do not need Google. In other words, you do not need your textbook. Yes, you don't need your textbook. By the way, the price comes with 2 textbooks, right? Just to let you know, this is your first class. I have had, you could ask my students and before that we are not starting with the textbook. I have ordered it 2 weeks now, but I am not DHL. No, am I the shipper, NEBOSH, right? The guy who just came for another course and they got books. That's process safety. The same one I mentioned, the guy who came for process safety, right? But I ordered your books 2 weeks now and I get it. And I ordered process safety this week and I got it. Right? So I don't know, I'll have to probably try it. But normally we don't follow up, but I'll have to follow up on Monday because normally we order, it comes. 2 weeks, I think, is kind of too long for books. It's only, yesterday I was kind of remarking on that because we order them and they come. NEBOSH is kind of efficient like that. But I don't know if it's something with DHL or the port or something. But your books were ordered before you sign up. Some of y'all came by this week, but we order your books in advance, right? But we have no books. Anyway, speaking of books, I have one here. These books come with your price. You have already paid for it, and I have already paid for it, right? So 2 books come with the price, right? So anyway, back to the story here. In the exam, you may or may not need your book because if the answers are in the case study, like one positive point about fire safety at the car showroom, that's not in the book. That's in the comprehension, right? So I wanted to kind of rest assured, and I also wanted to believe in yourself. A lot of people sometimes get nervous. Believe in yourself. This exam is nothing more than a comprehension. So some of the answers are in the book, right? I'll show you how to integrate it. Some of them is on Google, but a fair amount of questions. I can show you another one in every paper. A lot of the answers are just in the comprehension itself. I'm trying to show you another one, right? And you tell me what you think about the style of writing and stuff, right? They normally like to ask something on safety culture. Let's see if you could find a question on that, right? Safety culture. Look at here, health and safety culture, right? So health and safety culture, even though this is chapter 3 in the textbook, right? It's like certain things in the company then, like if you look at a company and they have a high accident rate, that tells you like the company culture is not where it's supposed to be. If the sign says PPE must be worn and nobody is wearing it, that kind of says something about the culture, right? So the case study asks for, what is question? Are you all seeing it, folks? This question asks for, so then watch how much, and you tell me, right? How much marks this question went for then? But you tell, I don't think we finished yet. How much marks was this question? How much marks was the question?
20,
What is the pass mark?
45.
45.
So then you almost passed by doing one question. But you see, you have to pick your question. I told you all about technique. Sometimes it may not be starting with number one. If you choose the one you could do. You know, I have a student had, right? Rabindra Singh. You know, this man do 6 questions and pass the paper. Rabindra Singh, right? And it had seasoned safety men in the class fail. Them do everything. I asked Rabindra, I said, Rabindra, why you didn't do all? And you know what? He got 40 something. He passed, right? Like 48 or 14. And he said he was happy with that. Everybody is different. Eh? By the way, this student got about 70 to 80 on this paper here, right? This one that we're looking at, right? But you see, if you pick your question, if one is 20, one is 18, and next one is 10, by 12 o'clock you finish. I mean, I'm not saying you finish, but you pass the paper. The rest of the evening, take your time, relax, you know, write all the rest, type all the rest, but you know that you pass, right? This is something with me, right? And I taken you back and I taken me back too, right? When I wrote exams, it was never the question of if I pass, but what I pass with, because I knew the technique even from back in CXC days. Anybody remember how you did your CXC paper? This is hopefully that you pass. In maths, right? What did you all do for your maths paper first? Well, I'm hoping the paper is the same way now. I kind of, maths of me was 20 something. Okay, but like what questions you did first in your maths paper? Or what questions you did first in your English paper? Like I could remember?
Whatever was the easiest to do first.
Anybody else? And I'll tell you what I did. And that's just like the technique. I had a guy called Tyler. Tyler is the one I'm talking about, who he listened to me. And I said the things so only class, but not everybody does do it. The people that does do it does finish early. Anybody in your maths, do you remember what you did first? Well, back in my day, I don't have the maths paper. It's the same way now. I keep saying back in my day. That's because I don't know what a maths paper look like today. Does maths still have 2 sections in it, section A and section B? Does it still have that in it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, section 1 and a section 2.
Right.
And
So
it has a
I did
section 3 as well.
section 3 in maths now. Okay, all right. Anyway, the section B for us used to have like the ones that carry most marks, right? Like the trigonometry was there. So I remember doing that first. I did my paper back to front then. I did the section B first, well, back in the day, and then the last question I did was the first question on the paper, the one like the fraction. The first question was always a fraction. So I say here, what if time ran out on me, I just lose a fraction of the mark, like this about a question for 2 marks, right? Same thing for English. I did the short story first, if it still have short story in English. I wrote the short story first. I write the short story first, right? And what I'm telling you all too, if you want to pass, right? A technique here is like the game of cricket, right? A technique here is the game of cricket. What do I mean by that? It means, like cricket, the other side, they have battle already, and they got 45, right? So now is your time to bat. If you want to beat the other side, what you have to do? The other side scored 45. If you want to beat them, what you have to do?
Yeah, let's go 46.
Yeah, they score 46. And the pass mark is 45. So if you get 46, you pass. So how you get the 45 is up to you. I would suggest you go for the things that are easy. So this one is just what is the things that they like the negative safety culture in the case study. That is like a needle and haystack approach, right? You're just looking into the lines and you're seeing what was negative about the culture. Let's take a look and see what Janelle put here, right? So to tell you that this didn't even have to do with the textbook, right? You're just reading the case study and you're finding like 20 negative things about the company, right? So no one could tell me NEBOSH is hard. It becomes hard when you misinterpret what it is the question is asking. Once you understand the technique and you understand the question, you cannot fail NEBOSH. Let's have a read, right? I'm going to read, well, how the thing is here. This is a 20-mark question, right? They wanted the negative safety indicators. Let's see what she said, number 14. A negative indicator of health and safety culture is the accident that occurred at the showroom, which is evident because, and you could quote it, you have to quote like a comprehension. Remember comprehension, you go back and you quote, there have been other similar events in the past, some involving minor injuries. Now, where did that answer come from? It didn't come from the textbook. It come from the case study. I told you you're entitled to your book. It order already. I don't spend the money. Right? The money going to England long time. NEBOSH collect that and spend that long time, right? But we order your book before you were even enrolled. But what I'm trying to show you is that the rest assured that you could do this thing. Number 16, a negative indicator of health and safety culture is that no accident investigation is carried out. Now, where is she getting that from? She said this is evident when, and she put in inverted commas, the sales supervisor talks to the apprentice and advise them to say that they fell off the bike at home, should anyone ask. Look how short that answer is, right? So that's a negative indicator. They're not reporting the accident. They're saying they fell off the bike. You don't need your book for that. You don't need Google for that, right? Tell me what you think, folks. I want to leave this, but I did a fair job of it today because remember, next week we're not doing this. The next time you hear me talking about this is when I give you an assignment to do. And then I would say, can you remember? You know, we spoke about this. All right, let me check on the chats. Feel free if you have any questions as well.
Hi, sir.
Hey, Sparkle, big up to Sparkle. Sparkle from Guyana there. I didn't see when you joined in.
Sir, good morning.
Hi, yes.
This is Ola Jones. Sir, I
Hi,
need
Ola.
35% on the paper. And to me, I believe I answered all the questions. So I don't, well, I guess again, probably how I answered the question. I don't know if it's possible. I have no shame in my paper because I mean, we're all here to learn where I went wrong. If it's possible that you can tell me or if anybody else is willing, maybe who did it. And at least that way we should be able to brush up on our skills because I don't, I mean, to me, I answered all the questions. And to me, I believe to myself I did well. So I don't know where I went wrong.
Okay, but I'm trying to see how to answer you. But the thing is, well, you did not go correct because if you went correct, then you would have passed. So it's not a mystery then, right? It's not a mystery as to what has gone wrong. What has gone wrong is misinterpretation. It's not a mystery. We could look at your paper and we see the same thing. It's not to say it's like something to figure out what went wrong. There's only one thing that goes wrong, which is misinterpretation. If you wrote a whole paper, then you misinterpreted what they were asking for, right? So I could do that for you, but remember, I am not an examiner. So my opinion is my opinion. But the thing with NEBOSH, though, they don't really give you like an answer scheme, right? But if you got 35 and you wrote a whole paper and you didn't leave out any question, it's not like rocket science as to what calculation we have to do to figure out what went wrong. What went wrong is just misinterpretation. What you wrote is not what they were asking for, right? So you do have those questions like that. And like I said, today is the first day. So there is different techniques. One of them is interpretation, like how I show in your Janelli paper here. In the weeks and the months to come, I'm going to give you a question and there's going to be no answers. You have to interpret it for yourself. If you interpret it the right way, well, then you are on the right track. But if you misinterpret, then that's the only way. NEBOSH, what I found them to be, I found them to be very fair. And if you deserve, like if you wrote the answer then, right? Like if you wrote the answer, well, then you will pass. If what you wrote though, if this person had written something here that was not an indicator, well, the person would not have passed, right? So it is not a mystery to say what went wrong. There's only a couple of things could go wrong. Number one, you didn't write all the questions. And if you said you did, but the only other thing is misinterpretation, right? And the way to get around that is to take your time. There's a technique for that to take your time, read the question paper, read the question, try to understand what they ask, and don't just type. A lot of people like to just start typing. You type in, you ask them what they type in, they don't know what they type in. But you know, I'll show you a technique called an answer plan technique to create an answer plan before you start. And if you go, like I said, along the correct lines, but then you would definitely pass the exam. All right, so we're gonna come back to that. And again, like I said, no, I think I'll leave that, right? I'll leave that point right there, right? Then I get to the other part of it. So there's actually something else you have to do. I'm looking at the time. I want to finish up the other thing. You have a project to do. It's called NG2, right? You can take this one down. You have a project to do. It's called NG2, and it's a risk assessment, an RA for short. Now, again, you could write more than me, right? You could write more than me with this one. Again, what NEBOSH have done, they are going to give you a sample. So you have a sample of it, right? They are going to give you a guide. You could just finish that word for me, right? Sample. I guess I could finish it. Sample. You are given a guide, which is like a document saying what they want. And then we have some classes on it. We have about two, maybe about up to four, but maybe about 2 to 3 classes on the project for you to get the project done, right? We require the project by a certain day and time. And if you follow the sample and you follow the guide and you follow the teaching and the video, well, I'll put teaching here, right? We have some classes on the project, right? Then you should pass the project. But again, students find the most creative things to do. Like, for example, some of them don't use the sample, they don't use the guidance, they don't look at the video, they don't listen back to anything that we say, they don't make any notes in class, right? So how we know that? Because from the very start of the project, it's wrong, right? So this is our support to you, but please remember what we said, I am not NEBOSH. Otherwise, the words of the qualification would not be what it is. It's going to the UK, right? So if you do what you have to do here, and in the exam, you'll pass the exam, right? As much as we like you, we cannot pass you, right? So this is why I said, it is what it is. A Jordan's is expensive. You have to spend the money if you want it. In this case, NEBOSH is NEBOSH. You have to put in the work if you want it, right? We are here to help you in every step of the way, except in the exam day. We cannot help you on that day. But for the project, we actually do look at a draft. This is a source of many problems as well. We ask students for a draft by a certain day. They don't send it, right? 2 weeks after it due, people still sending drafts, right? But we look at your draft and we try to give you a feedback on your draft before you do your final submission. So once you follow through with this, you have no reason to fail this exam. But as I said, Trinidadians and hopefully not Guyanese. Well, the good news is Guyana people tend to listen all the time, right? This paper here is generally Lewis from Guyana. The paper that we're looking at, this is a student from Guyana, right? I'm not too sure why, right? But the Guyanese people listen, right? They don't do what they want to do. They look at the sample. They look, I'm like, how would you not look at a sample if NEBOSH give you a sample, right? A sample is like a math sum. The teacher did one and asked you to do one. But why would you go and do one without looking at the one the teacher did, right? Well, they do. Everybody in Trinidad does, except in probably you all. Maybe you all are different, right? I had a class in September. They wrote exam in February. They were a very good class, right? I'm not saying good in any way. It's not as if I know them. They were good in that they followed the sample, they followed the guide, they followed the draft. They give us the draft on time. In fact, many of them, the one who just came here, have signed up to do the level 4, right? So without any further ado, I guess we'll bring the curtains down in this orientation. I could probably go back and show you this slide so we could kind of wrap up that a bit, like who Shadrach Safety Institute is. And we have done, like I said, extensively on who NEBOSH is and where your paper is going and what you are required to do to pass the course anyway, right? So anyway, you don't have to wear PPE and thing anymore. This is before the pandemic. You had to wear those things to do the project. Now the project is done at home, right? History of the company, I told you I've been around more than a decade, but I've been in safety more than that. I was the past principal of another health and safety school that closed down, and at the same time, an active teacher in UE, but that doesn't really worth anything. UE doesn't really worth anything to me. I've spent some time in the UK, and today, for those of us who know, I did say the Shadrach Safety as ranked by NEBOSH, not ranked by me. And ranking is not a good thing because rank mean that we had to go through an audit. As ranked by NEBOSH, we are ranked as a top provider in the region as per audits then, right? Which we had one just in April anyway. We have been coming out on top for more than a decade now, right? Mr. Tika is still with us here. Christopher Dilpaul is no longer actively teaching. And I guess these are some of our resources. I will show you NEBOSH have a website. I'll probably show you that next week, right? When South Open Campus was open, we used to rent from there. Not anymore though, but there's a lot of online resources, some really good ones I would show you as we get into chapter 1 of the course next week, right? Really to attend about 80% of the classes as it's on Zoom. We do keep a register. That register is auditable by NEBOSH as well. And many of you who do not know, remember we are with the Accreditation Council. I was going to show. So the reason for leaving your cameras on, I was going to tell you that, was for ACTT, right? The Accreditation Council of Trinidad and Tobago. If you look at the list of tertiary schools, you can get this online. You all know what ACTT is, right? The Accreditation Council. Those of us in Guyana, you may not know this, but we have an Accreditation Council here. You can find Shadrach Safety on the NEBOSH site, and I think that's a better place to find us because on the NEBOSH site means that we are accredited by NEBOSH. ACTT then, for my student in Guyana, that means nothing to her. ACTT don't mean nothing because once you step out of Trinidad waters, ACTT doesn't mean anything. But we are NEBOSH accredited by NEBOSH itself. So if you'll find us on the site, I'll probably show you that next week. And then those of us who are here, if you look at the list of tertiary schools, have you all looked at that? Could I give you a lot for homework to do? If we look at the list of tertiary schools, it's in alphabetical order. Those of us in Trinidad, you would see like COSTAT is under C. UE, of course, is under U. We are Shadrach Safety, so we're under S. And if you look at it, you'll find us there. But as being a ministry registered school then, and an approved school, the NEBOSH General Certificate is what is called transnationally approved, right? Being an approved school, they require certain things. And it's not just my show then. This is not just for people who think this is just, remember, this is a full-fledged entity going up to a master's degree. But some people think because of safety, you could just do what you want, right? Remember, it is a registered institution, and because of that, there are certain rules that we have to follow, one of which is having your cameras on, right? As a student in a school, even if you're mature, right? You still have to keep it on. I did tell you all, feel free. You could take it off lunchtime. If you're having something to eat, you want to go to the washroom, take it off, put it back on. I'm okay with that. But it shouldn't be off for the whole session then, right? And that's why I told you about the camera, and I told you I'll tell you about that now, right? Anyway, it's the end, right? So let's call the roll, and we're gonna bring it down there. I hope to give you all good news in the week to tell you that your books are here. But I did send you the PowerPoint. We normally teach from that as it is a lecture. Most tertiary schools do that. Whether or not it is here, well, I'll follow up on Monday. Today is Saturday, right? NEBOSH I can respond today, right? Plus in England now is about 7:30 in the night, but it's Saturday anyway, right? So next week, Saturday to 1 o'clock, we're gonna start teaching, right? And if we can get a fair amount of content under our belt, we can actually reflect on our past paper, but we have to do some work before we reflect on our past paper, right? Can anybody give me a couple of closing comments? Any questions you have, any concerns? All I have to do is mark the roll in the next 6 minutes. How we do that? I'm gonna stop the recording. I don't mark the roll on air for personal reasons. People may have had genuine reasons why they are not here. They would have told me that via messages. So I don't look to, like shout that out on air then. I stop the recording for whenever the roll is being called for the next 5 months. Unless if NEBOSH sent me to start recording it. I have a physical record here, so I don't think they need that, right? And once you hear your name, you could leave, right? But just as we leave, are we leaving or getting ready to leave? Anybody have any concerns? Are you scared? Are you excited? Right? What is the overall feeling? after the orientation. I can tell you what it is for me. What it is for me is always the same for me, is that yes, it is what it is. NEBOSH changed my life, right? For those who know, that's another story, right? But I'll make it short, right? So I did a custard degree. Yeah, we talking custard bad, eh? I came first in Trinidad in custard. I graduated first in the country with a custard degree. I never got nothing to do with it. I'll probably show you today, but I'm in the office, at the home, right? I never got nothing to do with it, right? A long story short is that one of my one of the courses in custard was health and safety. And I remember, um, I remember that. I remember the lecturer said NEBOSH, right? And I just fast forward in this story, right? So fast forward, when I got the NEBOSH, I used to send out resumes. By the way, I used to work with a contractor. I started off not in safety. I started off as a contractor. I was actually cutting grass. When I say contractor, please don't get it the wrong way. I used to do pipe fitting for Petrotrin back in the days. Anything contractors I need to do, I used to do. Cutting grass, yeah. Pipe fitting, cleaning an oil tank, cleaning an oil pit. Yeah, right? That's where I started from when I was 19 years. People still remember me. Anybody know a company called Lease Operators? They are in Paliseco.
Yes, sir.
Did you all see that video with the man that is walking through Trinidad? Did you all see that video? The guy who got robbed, the guy who walking and he walking through Trinidad from
Yeah, he walking from like
right,
all
right.
the way north all the way
Yeah.
south. Yeah.
If you see the one where he's at the oil company, that is Lease Operators, right? So yeah, I went to do a training there. Remember, I've been to England, I've trained all over the Caribbean, all over Trinidad. So I went there, right? In fact, and people remembered me. They said you used to be they call the facility an oil catch because it's a catchment. The river flows into like a series of pits. And I said, yeah, that was me. And people respect me for that because they know that I'm not talking crap. They know I came through the line, literally, the pipeline, right? So I came from that, and I was telling you all, NEBOSH changed my life because when I did my Costa degree, yeah, we used to do something called walk in the line. You walk in the line in the forest for leaks, right? So all that time I used to be studying in the evening, right? I would go to work in the day, whatever it was, but after work 4 o'clock, I'll head up and I'll start to study. I'll head to school. I head to Custard. Custard back then was at Mount Hope, right? When Custard first came out anyway, right? Anyway, I was telling you all that having done that, I never got anything to do with my Custard degree. And I did the NEBOSH, and I remember sending out resumes, and I would never put the word NEBOSH on it. I would just put health and safety. And in one of those envelopes, I took it back out and with a pen, because I typed it, right? I thought it would look untidy. With a pen, I wrote the word NEBOSH health and safety. And that's the first call I ever got. And that call ended up being in a position where I met somebody from England, from Wales, and fast forward all of that to where I was interviewed for a position to be the principal of a health and safety school. And I did that. When that school closed down, I opened my own school, which is more than a decade ago, right? And today, as I said, not just today, 10 years ago, Shadrach Safety Institute was the top provider in Trinidad for NEBOSH. And 10 years, more than 10 years after, it's going in 15 years now, we are still the top provider for NEBOSH. But I didn't drop in this chair. So if you see the jacket and if you see the hair and you see whatever, I didn't drop into it, right? I worked as a laborer, cutting grass, clamping line, cleaning oil pit, cleaning tanks to where I am today, right? So, and this is the same person that went to England. I'll give you those stories another time, right? So I'll tell you that because NEBOSH, having said all of that, it could change your life. How I know that? Because all my students who work in it changed their life. The guy I called, when I say I called Kevin came to my office selling milk. Yeah. When soy milk first came to Trinidad, people used to go to door and sell it. And I said, what are you doing? Right? Today, Kevin is the safety manager for Adon, if you know Adon. Right? Balchan, I think some of you all know him here. I spoke, I think one of the students here actually know him. He came to me here without shoes on his foot. I took out my shoes and I gave him. Right? I don't know if you all know that story. He said, as I always tell that same story. Anybody that come through here know that story about Balchan, right? Bal was a safety manager for Atlantic LNG, not safety officer, you know. safety manager for Atlantic LNG, right? So today I am here where I'm at, but I know in every company I told you, Diesel Cut, Yara, you could call a company, I'll tell you who's the safety inside there, right? And they came through right here. So now is your turn. Folks, you understand that? Now is your turn, right? Now is your turn to pass. And from now, look, I had a student called Katie. Katie came here from Costard. When I told my Costard story, you know what Katie did? She left Costard. Katie left her Costard degree and came here and did the NEBOSH diploma and passed. Today, Katie Kalicheran is the safety manager for Amflia, right? Another student, I'm telling you real names now. Praveen. You all know Teddy's Mohammed Mall in Gulf City. You all know Teddy Mohammed? Praveen used to stand up in the aisles there. She was not the cashier. She was a girl in the corridor. You know, sometimes you meet somebody to help you along the aisles. That was Praveen. Today, Praveen is a safety manager for Dumo Enterprises. Yeah? Now is your turn. What you need to pass, right? Michelle, Ola, Olusein, you didn't pass. You all know what you need to do to pass, right? You need to answer the questions on the day of the exam. You need to stop messing it up, right? Some people mess up the exam day, right? Do a good exam on the day of the exam. If NEBOSH did this for me, right? NEBOSH actually built, when I say the monies I made in the last decade and more, I use it to build a house, right? This is the same guy who was cutting grass in Santa Flora, me, right? How could I have done that? It wasn't my Costa degree. How did Bal reach where he reached? How come Previn reach where he reached? She reached, right? How did Kevin reach as the safety manager of Adon today? Kevin was selling milk, right? So NEBOSH could change your life. That's not a statement. That's a fact of life, right? Costard cannot change your life. I can tell you that for sure. But NEBOSH could change your life. What about, I'll tell you another one. What about a student I have called Mark? Mark is in Trinidad. Went to Qatar, worked for $150,000 a month and came back to Trinidad as a millionaire. I almost bounced him with my car day. Right? He got so fat, he got fat. So I told Mark, I said, not because they're giving you food to eat, mean you'll eat everything. Right? Mark came back here a millionaire now. 150,000 TT dollars a month. I can't tell you his last name because Trinidad is not safe. All right, folks, let me stop the recording, right? So now it's your turn. Don't say NEBOSH is hard. It's not that hard. If everybody doing it, how come you can't do it?